So in today's episode, we are going to talk about ADU construction, ADU permitting. We're going to talk about ADUs, junior ADUs. We're going to talk about multifamily ADUs, how to add ADUs to your multifamily. We're going to talk about condo conversions. We're going to talk about lot splits. This is going to be an all-inclusive episode where we're going to give the latest updates as of 2025, how to permit and how to build ADUs in Southern California. To help us with that, we have Stephanie Gutierrez with ADU GG Investments. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. We got a lot to talk about, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. This is probably one of my favorite things to talk about. So I get excited when we talk ADU. So
Same here.
Let's break it down very basic. What is an ADU and what is a junior ADU for those people that don't know what that is?
Yeah, so an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. It's basically its own standalone unit that has its own living space, bathroom space, and it's its full-on independent unit. And a junior ADU is typically attached to the property, but it also acts very independent from the property. And that's the difference. And the other difference between the two is that a junior ADU has to be under 500 square feet, whereas your typical ADU could be up to 1,200 square feet in some cases.
I love it. Who can build an ADU? Can any person that has a single family lot, is it condos, townhomes? Who can build them?
Anyone in California, we have a statewide ordinance that allows for you to build ADUs. So this goes to anyone. Now, that doesn't mean that every single family home or every multifamily property has the potential to build, right? We have to be mindful of a lot of things. But essentially, yes, anyone in California could build if they wanted to. Possibly one, possibly two in residential. And then, with multifamily, we have an exciting bill that just passed, which really allows us to scale ADUs, definitely.
Got it. Now, when you say that anybody can build, does that mean like somebody in a condo complex can build or no?
Yeah, I mean, in condos, obviously you're limited with space other than it being a garage conversion, unless it's in a condoized community that has enough space for you to build. I don't really see that being a possibility other than the garage conversion.
Yeah.
But HOAs can't prohibit you from not building, right? You're allowed to build.
What happens if an HOA does want to prohibit you from doing it?
Then that's when you use state law, right, to kind of throw that back at them and say, hey, according to state law, you cannot prohibit us. And that's against the law. So it's really referencing the law back to them. I think now we're at the point where HOAs don't give you a lot of pushback like they did back in 2017 when ADUs were a thing, right? Mm-hmm. So now I think most HOAs are up to date and they know what's allowed and what's not allowed. And they may impose their own restrictions as far as what the ADU should look like, and a couple other requirements. But they can't say you can't build.
Do JADUs, the junior ADUs, do they have to be owner occupied? Does that vary by city? Does that vary by county? What are your thoughts on that?
So junior ADUs, as of right now, technically, you need certificate of occupancy still for junior ADUs. But there's actually a bill right now. I'm a member of the Casita Coalition. So for anyone who wants to learn about ADUs, whether you're seasoned or a newbie, you should definitely become a member because we have monthly meetings where we talk about bills that are in the process of happening. One of those bills is going to address the non-owner occupancy not required for junior ADUs, which is a great thing because, junior ADUs are great, but when it comes to investors, it's not the best strategy if your thought is to rent out that home until this bill, goes through, which hopefully will happen soon.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And then it's also, I imagine that it's also city by city because I had the city of Oxnard at some point and they just eliminated this. Well, they were allowing junior ADUs to be non-owner occupied. So I did two properties that I had and I did an ADU and a junior ADU, but then I'd go to other cities and they would be like, no, it's not like, you can't do it. So it was almost like per city. And I'm guessing that even though the state of California has certain rules, each individual city and county has developed almost certain things that they would accept and certain things that they wouldn't. So I've seen online where people are doing two ADUs on properties, but then I asked some of my architects and I try to do it on one of my properties and they're like, that's not possible. So how is it possible in some cities and not possible in others, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, in regards to like the first thing you mentioned, sometimes it's what they opt into, right? Like the certificate of occupancy, it's a statewide ordinance that you still need a certificate of occupancy for a junior ADU, but certain cities might have opted into not requiring it, just like with AB 1033, right, which we'll talk about in a
Mm-hmm.
bit. But back to how do you build two? Zoning plays a big role, right, in what you're allowed to build and how many you can build, because I mean, you could build two or you can build unlimited. Like, for example, in San Diego, you have the ADU bonus rule. Depending on the type of zoning, you can build like multiple ADUs on a single family residence as long as it's within like a transit type of zoning. So there's that specifically for San Diego, right? But San Diego is the only one who has the ADU bonus program. In LA or Orange County, you're looking at different options. I mean, sometimes we explore the option of SB9, which would be able to get us to that point where we could build two additional ADUs or a single family home with an 800 square foot ADU. So there's just different strategies and different like bills that you can kind of overlap and use together, right? It's a whole strategy within within a strategy.
Basically, how would somebody, what's the best tip for somebody to find out what they can do and
Yeah.
do, like, for example, like for that property in Simi Valley, I wanted to add another ADU, but the architect told me no. Um, if somebody wanted to get a second opinion, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I think the first step is to really understand the HCD handbook. So if you look up HCD handbook. It's free. It's a PDF form that will basically lay out what's allowed and what's not allowed. And then from there, you should reach out to your hyperlocal municipality and figure out like what's feasible in that hyperlocal city. And then once you reference what the city has said versus what the code is saying, then now you have more ammo to then interview other architects. Because, you know, with us, both of us being realtors, you know that not all realtors are built the same. And
Yeah.
it's the same with architects, it's the same with builders. Not every architect understands the code, right, when building ADUs. And so it's important to know, like, have they done this type of project in the past? Do they have, well-known projects within that specific city?
Hmm.
Do they have even pre-approved plans that they've done in the past? Like, do they know their stuff when they're building, right? I think
Yeah.
that's key. But
Yeah.
in order for you to vet people out, you have to have knowledge, right? You don't
Of
even know what
course.
to ask for if you don't know.
What? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about multifamily ADUs. So I am getting 6 ADUs approved on a 25 unit apartment, but I
That's
hear that
awesome.
there's some recent changes. Can you talk about how ADUs play a factor in multifamily?
Yeah.
And then also, could you give us a sneak peek to see if any other cities or counties are considering the San Diego program, where it's like bonus ADU as well too?
Yeah, I don't know that there's other cities considering the bonus program. As a matter of fact, there was like an issue not that long ago. I spoke at the ADU Academy in San Diego last month, and the day before the academy, there had been issues with the bonus program because somebody took advantage and was building about 30 ADUs on a suburban type neighborhood, right? And so there was pushback from some of the owners, and they modified the bonus program. So now there's specific type of zoning that can only be used for the bonus program. So I don't see it in other, you know, hyper local or high dense counties yet, but the multifamily stuff is really interesting because before I talk about SB 1211, I'll talk about where we were with multifamily ADUs prior to that. So before, you used to have what was called, and we still have it, is a 25% density rule,
Mhm.
which means you can convert 25% of the existing structure, which was huge because when COVID happened, as you know, in multifamily, there was a lot of office spaces and a lot of multifamily that just unused storage space that wasn't being used, right, that could have been converted into more housing. And so that allowed for some of that specific conversion. At least 25% of it would allow you to convert into ADUs. Plus, you could also build two detached ADUs. And so that's where we were. between 2017, 2018, all the way up until 2023. And then in 2024, we had what's called SB 1211. And what that bill does is it aims to increase the amount of detached ADUs that you can build, which goes from 2 to 8. However, it can't exceed the amount of existing units. So you have to have, if you want to build 8 detached units, you have to have an existing 8 unit, right?
Apartment.
But if you have a fourplex and there's, if it's feasible to build another 4 units back there, you can build another 4. If you have your 25 unit, you can build up to 8. I have someone working on a project up in San Francisco. There's 5 different parcels, so they're going to do 8 times 5, right, on those 300 units. And so
That's
there's,
unbelievable.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's per parcel. And that's huge, right? Because that really allows for you to scale ADUs. And I don't know that there's other states that even have this sort of multifamily ADU law. And so I think for California, it's great because we still have an affordability issue. We still have an inventory issue. And the only way to create more inventory is by working with what we have now, right? The current land that we have. Now, the issue that I have come across, because I'm really focusing on SB 1211, is properties that actually have space to build another 8 units, right? So I'm not sure how you got those 6 approved. Is it under tuck parking? Is it
It's actually
detached?
over carports, basically. So we're building
Yeah,
on top of the
yeah.
carports.
Hmm.
But we're actually on a very big lot. So I think we're on an acre and a half for 25
Yeah,
units.
yeah. So
So I actually would like to get more approved. Do you recommend that I hold off on getting this approval first because I feel like I'm very close and then go back to them for extras? Or what do you would recommend? Because we've been with this city, and this is one of the slowest cities that we've ever worked with, but we've been with them for like 2 years now under the original
yeah.
25% program. And I feel like we're like less than 6 months from getting full approval. So I almost feel like if I start it from the beginning, it'll basically kick it back to the front of the
Yeah,
line.
which means, do you want to wait it out
Yeah.
another year to get the approval? Although part of SB 1211 aims to not only increase the amount of detached ADUs, but it also is supposed to aim for them to have a streamlined process. And by they, I mean
The
hyperlocal
county.
municipalities and cities, right? They have to, and there's also a response time now, where before, you'd be okay waiting a year or 2 years to get your plans approved. Now you have what's called the 60-day rule, meaning they have to come back within 60 days with an approval or a denial or corrections or whatever, but they need to respond within a 60-day time frame. And that's also part of SB 1211, is that they have a streamlined process, and that they get back to you within a certain amount of time. So if I was you, I'd probably talk to the city and say, hey, with SB 1211, it looks like I might be able to do 8, possibly even 10, right? If you're converting some of the existing space, and then see, if that might be the best route. But 6 is already a win, right?
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
you can't do that without these bills, and so I think that's the hack there.
Well, even for me, like the way I look at ADUs, I'm like, you already own the land. So because you
Right.
already own the land, the only cost is the construction cost, So it's actually like a plus. And then I'll tell people, I'll be like, hey, if I could sell you a property in California for 150 or $175,000, that could
Mhm.
bring you in
Right.
$2,500 a month. Would you buy it? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, that's the ADU. You know, that's
Yeah, it
exactly
is
what
a
that is.
long-term play, right? It's not a short-term play. Another benefit that I see with multifamily, because with residential, even though you said just now, like you already have the land, right? If it's residential, you already have the land. You just have to pay for construction. But a lot of people in residential, if they don't have the option for a HELOC loan, they most likely don't have 150 laying around to build it, right? Or 250. And so what I find is that it's a lot easier in multifamily to be able to scale because you can leverage the asset itself along with the income that it's producing, right? So now under an appraiser's lens, I mean, they're taking the income approach. It's very black and white. Where with residential, one of the main questions I get is, what is my property going to be worth after I build out the garage and I build another unit or I build a detached unit. And we can't just look up comps, right? We're limited
Yeah.
with data, and every single ADU is different. Every neighborhood's different. So with residential, there's still a couple of hurdles, both in the financial world and then like ARV wise, So,
How
but
how
with multifamily, not so much.
how are you finding that the people who are running into those issues, how are they financing them?
You got to get creative. I mean, I've seen people use 0% interest credit cards for the first 12 months to pay for at least like the plans to get that going. And then once it comes down to getting those plans approved and now we start construction, then they pull out a HELOC. If the HELOC is not an option, I've had parents do reverse mortgages. I've seen people tap into their 401k. I mean, the same way that people get creative with the down payment for their first investment property is sort of like the same way, right? That they have to get creative. If they don't have equity, they definitely have to get creative with how they're going to finance the project.
Yeah, it's funny because I ran into this issue with a lot of my single families where I was building
Hmm.
ADUs, and I had like a 3% first mortgage on it, and I'm like, I don't want to
Right.
refinance this. This is like a
Yeah.
steal. Like I'm never going to be able to get this again. So I went to a mastermind and I said, hey, look, like what do you guys recommend? They're like, look, the only way to really do it is to get creative. Exactly what you just said. And
Hmm.
what they recommended was to find private lenders that were willing to finance these for me. And then my next question was, well, how do I find private lenders? They're like, you probably already know people that
Right.
would do it or are in a position. So I started calling, like having conversations with people. I'm like, hey, look, I have this problem. I have a 3% rate. I don't want to refinance. I'm looking for somebody to lend me money in second position to build an ADU. Sure enough, within like 4 months, I found somebody that lent me the money to build the ADU and did interest only for like 10 years. And basically, he became my private lender. And now I've gone really good at that, where now a lot of the people that I'm talking to, I'm like, a lot more people want to do stuff like that. So a lot of times there's people in your network that, if you really think about it, that could help you finance these things, even with
Right.
like a self-directed IRA as well too. So
I
I think
actually
that,
had someone on my podcast, Karin Hall. She has a company called UDirect, and she talked about the strategy of using your self-directed IRA to also use that for funding. And yeah, I mean, to your point, you have to get creative. I do have private money lenders as well, but I use that almost as like a last resort for residential people, right? Especially if it's an investment, you should definitely go the private money route, because another hurdle that they have to overcome is typically with HELOC loans, it has to be owner occupied. It's kind of hard getting the financing if it's not, right?
yeah,
If it's only an investment. So private money, construction loans, these are higher rates, a lot higher than HELOCs or traditional financing, but it's a different avenue to get you to, to be able to build it ultimately.
yeah. And then after that, once you have it built, it's actually, uh, you've got more options once it's already built, because you already have the income coming in as well. So
Exactly.
got it. So let's talk a little bit about condo ADUs as well too. Like, what is that? How does it work?
Yeah. So there's another bill that just passed as well. It's called AB 1033. And this one allows you to condoize your ADU. But the interesting with this one is that the state passed it and said, hey, you guys can now condoize your ADU and you can sell it off as a condo separately from the main home. But cities have to opt in. So it's not mandatory for cities to do it. It's like, if you want to opt in and participate, then you're more than welcome to do so. And right now, the first city that did it was San Jose, Santa Clarita, Berkeley, and I know Santa Monica's been talking about it. I'm from Long Beach. Long Beach is definitely talking about it. So, they're going to be one of the first ones to also opt in. And then eventually every city and state is going to opt in. Honestly, I think every state is going to get to the point, because they're already condoizing them in Seattle, Washington. People who follow Thatch,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
real estate guru. That's what he's doing. He's condoizing them. He's building multiple ones at scale, right? Going back to multifamily, he's building a whole bunch of condos, they're ADUs, and then selling them off individually.
I love it. Yeah, it's interesting because I think that that's gonna help people even more. Imagine buying a property for like, let's say 600,000. You build an ADU on it for an extra 200,000. You sell the ADU for
Hmm.
500,000
Right.
or 450. Now you've just paid off a majority of your mortgage if you wanted to, or go back and do it again, basically, which is kind of,
Yeah, it just allows for a lot of flexibility, right? I think that like for families, it allows you to create and keep generational wealth. We got a lot of millennials that can't afford to buy. So now the parents can build an ADU and sell it off to their kids. And now you're able to leverage your assets and really have control over them, right? And then with investors on a higher scale, you're able to build more, sell them off, and create more inventory. It's also going to help with appraisals. It's going to help with evaluations. It's going to help with with sales. But with that too, a lot of people are like, okay, I can build it for 200. The value will be 600. Everything's going to be great, and I'm going to maximize my profits. But what's going to also happen is the cost of construction is going to go up once they start giving these ADUs the value that they deserve. Cost is going to go up. So I think it's another reason why people should really start considering building now before we get to AB 1033 being a thing, right? So
yeah. Now, what about the lot splits? Talk to us about like how people, like I saw somewhere online where you can lot split your property and build two ADUs here, two ADUs there. What is that? What?
yeah, so SB 9, it's Senate Bill 9.
Mhm.
That bill is designed for people to be able to subdivide lots, split lots, and build ADUs, or simply subdivide the lot and then sell off one of your lots, right? You don't necessarily have to build on it. You could also just build a single family home and not build an ADU. But typically, the way we've done it in the past is when we do SB 9, we also submit plans for SB 9 and we submit plans for ADUs because that also helps to streamline the process. But essentially, what you can do is subdivide. You can build a single family home and build an ADU of 800 square feet. And then there is a Florida area ratio. I think it's like 60/40 for it. So it's still a great hack. I mean, I'm working on one right now. It's 10 acres up north, and I emailed the city earlier just to make sure that what requirements do they have, because it's some of the acreage is sort of on a hillside. So these are like things that you want to look out for before we even get to the point of submitting some plans there. But he called me, right? The owner called me. He has 10 acres. He has the single family home and an ADU. And he was like, hey, I saw this SB 1211. I want 8 ADUs in my 10 on my 10 acres. And I was like, okay, this only applies to multifamily. So I looked at the property. It's not multifamily zoned. It's residential zoning. So I was like, damn, like you already have an ADU. So technically you can only build another ADU on 10 acres, right? Which is crazy to
Mhm.
think that way. But unfortunately, that's the type of zoning that's allowed. So I told him what you should do if I was you is the SB 9 play, because now you can subdivide these parcels, right? And now build single family home and the ADU. So now we can get you 4, but we can't get you 8
But
like
it's
you
still a
thought.
lot better than
It's
what it
still a
was
lot
back.
better than just one, right? If we were to go the residential route. Yeah.
And then how do you know which properties you can actually lot split versus ones that you can't, basically?
I mean, there is no minimum lot split, right? I think each one after splitting it has to be a minimum, if I'm
3,500,
correct, 1,200 square
1,200.
feet. So it's like nothing, right? There really isn't a requirement on the minimum lot size split, so anybody can do it. There was some pushback last year with some charter cities like Redondo Beach and a couple other charter cities that were pushing back with SB 9, but they modified it and did a couple changes to it, especially with the owner occupancy not being required as well on that one. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great strategy. SB 9 with ADUs, not just
So
SB 9.
anybody can do a lot split, basically.
Yeah, if it's allowed, yeah. I mean, you want to verify with your city, but yeah, SB 9 is allowed
Do you need a
to be
drive
split.
like a separate access if it's behind the property, or can it just be like a walkway to the back, or how would that work?
Yeah, as long as it's 60/40, I mean, it could be in the front and the back, on the side. It all depends on setbacks, and we do a feasibility inspection first
Got it.
before figuring out.
Tariffs.
Oh my God.
How are they affecting the ADU world?
Well, I mean, right now they're not affecting it as much, right? But what happened with this new election, it kind of shook us for a bit. At least for me, I was like, damn, like, okay, one little tariff, increase can really change the the
Construction
whole,
costs. Yeah.
yeah, the whole process, right? Like, especially with construction. So yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's good to have a good understanding of different types of structural builds, right? I have relationships with builders that are doing SIP panels out in Tijuana, Ensenada. These are structural insulated panels that are already ready to go and just have to be installed and assembled on site. But even then, some of the tariffs will still affect some of those people. You've got people who do steel framing, traditional. So understanding different types of builds will hopefully help you switch your strategy if we had to go that route. But Trump isn't. He's smart. He knows what he's doing, and I don't think it'll get to that point where it'll hopefully not affect us.
Yeah. What do you think, or what are you seeing for like a garage conversion? What are you seeing as cost? And I
Yeah.
know
So
obviously that
garage
varies.
conversion, 400 to 500 square feet, 150 to 180, roughly.
Cost, is that with plans and everything like that?
Yeah, that's everything. Yeah, these are like proposals that I
What
gave out last week. I
what
did
about what about like a 1,200 square foot ADU
probably like 300 to 375. I mean, if we want to say price per square foot, which I know none of us like to use, it's about 250 to 350 right now.
for construction costs? Just
Hmm.
basically
Yeah.
350,
And then for plans, that's like 10 to 20,000 roughly.
somewhere in that range.
Hmm.
Got it. What do you see for the future? Like, what should we be looking out for? What are some of the changes that you see happening in the ADU?
I mean, I think that with all these bills, right, it's only going to get better in the ADU space. So definitely teaming up with the right people. I think that's what's going to really help you hedge against inflation, give you the best ROI, and really help you maximize every strategy is choosing the right people. I definitely think that we should consider like the cost and everything going up. I see all of that going up. But I see a lot of good things in the future. I think ADUs is going to be that hack that we look back to and say, oh wow, we were able to implement this hack to really create a lot more inventory in this type of market, right? And where we're at, especially in multifamily. Like there's a lot of states that are passing ADU ordinances, but none of the other states have a ADU ordinance for multifamily, like Cali.
Good. Anything else that you think we should cover for ADUs?
Another thing that I do a lot with clients is midterm rentals. I didn't talk about that. Obviously, I do long-term rental management as well, but midterms is a huge opportunity right now for people in Southern California because, it's just, it doesn't pencil out sometimes long term. And so with midterm, there is a couple more costs and it's a different strategy than long term, but it's a great one. I have 8 units in Hermosa Beach. Two of them are ADUs and they're all being rented out as midterms. And with what happened with the Pacific Palisades, I mean, we're like right there, right? So we're pretty much booked for the rest of the year. And so I think midterm is a great strategy that people should consider when they're building an ADU, whether it's a single family home, detached ADU, or you're building six like you are on your
Yeah,
25 units, right? I don't know if your exit's going to be long term or midterm, but midterm would be a great hack
I love
depending
it.
on where it's at.
Yep, yep. Cool. Well, I want to say thank you, Stephanie, for
Thank you.
coming on the podcast. I think we should do another episode on the midterm if you're up for it.
Definitely.
So I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
that would be good. For our guests today, we had Stephanie Gutierrez with ADU GG Investments. We talked about ADUs, junior ADUs, multifamily, condo conversions, lot splits. If somebody wanted to connect with you, where could they find you and how can they get a hold of you?
Instagram DMs are the best way. So at Steph Sells ADU. And then my website is adugginvestments.org. You can schedule a 15-minute consultation there for any of the services that I offer.
Awesome. Cool. I want to say
Thank
thank you
you.
again. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. If you want to share it with a friend, make sure to hit the share button. Thank you guys. Appreciate your time and appreciate you coming on, Stephanie.
Thank you.